This is a 2002 Renault Sport Clio.
This is a 2004 Renault Twingo, and in fact it's not just any Twingo, it's my Twingo. And now we are going to talk about all of the quirks and features of this exact one. And I'm gonna show you in Doig Demuro style how Europeans with not much of money drive around in cities, on the autobahn, everywhere. So let's get started. First of all, a little overview on what this exact car even is. This is a cheap car from the 1990s. This one is a 2004 model, but they built it from all the way from 1993 to 2007. But instead of getting ahead of myself, what is a Renault, might the American viewer ask. A lot of enthusiasts will probably know the band for like the Renault 5 Turbo or their sports car brand Alpine. But this is what they built brand new in 1993 all the way to 2007. Designed by the Frenchman Patrick Leclerc. So, well, Renault is a French car brand, and a little spider here is also interested in the car. It was a cheap entry model for young people to make them, well, be able to drive everywhere they want. This was Europe's feeling of freedom. And no, everyone always says it's the Golf, it's the Polo. No, and in fact, it was this. A Twingo. The name Twingo comes from the three dances twist, swing and tango. You could just combine twist and tango and get the same thing, but Renault says no, these three dances. So it's a fun alternative to the German serious rivals of the time. So I'm gonna give you a tour of everything. I show you the styling, the interior, the driving experience, the engine of course, and I'm gonna show you how it was to buy this thing brand new in 2004. First of all, we are going to talk about the design of the Twingo. Here you can see the rear end. It's quite simple. Well, okay, it usually looks more standard than that. I think a lot of already saw the exhaust, which of course is not stock. I fitted it some months ago because usually I'm gonna show you a picture. The exhaust looks absolutely terrific. So I fitted this and it sounds glorious. It's not a fake one. It's actually, it's a real muffler from Novus. So, of course, a lot of things that you will see on the car are not typically normal. Like the only thing that was on here was the Renault and the rest was a gag. CO6, by the way, no, this is not a Corvette joke. It's supposed to resemble the product line name. So this was code number CO6. Like it was it's on the VIN number and everything. It's like the model type of the Twingo from the first generation. There also was a second one, I'm gonna show it now, and the third one, which was based on the Smart 4.4. But these are not real Twingos. Everyone, when they mention Twingo, it is this. Someone bumped into me, and so please do not wonder what that blue thing is. But as you can see, it's a simple one-box design, and it's based upon the design of the S-Bars, which was the minivan that Renault has built here in Europe. Because, well, you Americans do not have Renault, I think I need to explain a little bit more about why it even looks that way. So, well, that's how that is. I'm gonna blend in the picture. It's based on the line of the S-Bars, but in more small version. I actually think it looks good, but believe me when I tell you, and I think a lot of people will believe me when I say this, a lot of people consider this car really, really, really ugly. I'm not one of them. I love this car because I just love this funky design, and you will never ever get a car that looks quite like this again. Of course, some gag modifications done here, like this French flag. Usually this thing is gray, and the Renault Sport on the windshield is, well, it's offset, but it's usually not there. The front windshield is really, really big. Costs a lot to replace. Of course, pure 90s style, the antenna, which comes from here. And of course, really simple lines. I mean, it is simply just a box. People call it an egg, people call it a frog. I just call it the French nugget. I mean, it's quite round, it's not sharp edge, but I think the reason why I wanted to make this video is, first of all, because it's a shout out to Doig Demuro, which is most of you will probably know Doig Demuro. I actually learned English from him. Because, well, I'm German. English is not the language that I was born with. So ever since I went on YouTube, I found Doig Demuro, and I always saw his reviews of quirky and funky cars and thought, well, this is a car that you don't have in America. So I think this is quite interesting for some to see what we in Europe drive. So enough about the design. Of course, as I said, it's quite cute. We are going to go into the quirks and features later on. But, well, the rims, by the way, I have fitted these some time ago. These are 14-inch Intra wheels from Renault. They are quite old, but I think that they are really, really beautiful and they fit the car perfectly. These were the original Twingo wheels. Before that, I had steel wheels with hubcaps, but these look way, way better. And now, onto the interior. Right before we hop on inside though, a lot of you will have already saw that the door handle is quite odd. It's not the typical door handle you see on any other car. It's a circle with a little black plastic bit. So what you do is you take the key. This is the key. Yes, it does not have central locking. This is all you get. Well, not a lot. You pull it into the key fob just like you would do on an old car. You twist it and then you pull up this thing and it opens right up. Quite a weird mechanism, but well, that's what you got when you bought a Renault. So now that we are in the interior of the Twingo, I'm gonna show you around about how weird a French manufacturer builds his cars. So first of all, you see these are seat covers and they cover up a really nasty spot around here where the fabric has just opened and you can see all the foam inside. So I wanted to maybe change the seat someday, but first of all this has to do. So you see on the side the colorful and nice looking retro style, well, fabric. A lot of cars from the 90s and early 2000s had these, so that the interior is not as boring and bland, that is indeed more colorful. What is that? So that it's just a more nice place to be in. Of course, nowadays it seems absolutely ridiculous to look at it because you think, what were they thinking? But this is what you got. So the steering wheel usually is completely made out of plastic, just like the rest of, well, the dash and everything. But I have changed it to blue leather, which was a special limited steering wheel that you got on a, what was it called? I think Liberty was the edition of the Twingo. This is where you got a blue leather wheel and on the higher trim like the Initiale Paris. As I showed you, this car does not have central locking. And in other words, this is the base model. This is the Authentique, as what that was called. So it comes with, well, nothing. It does not have powered steering. When you are standing still and you steer, it's quite heavy, even though the car only weighs around 890 kilos. You do not have climate control. You do not even have stability control. Like, who needs that? And it doesn't have anything. It's just a manual transmission, a steering wheel, and that's it pretty much. And all the rest you have to do yourself. Luckily, ever since the model year 2000, you got airbags. Nice. Passenger, steering wheel, and in the seats there are airbags. This is also not all that unusual today, but back then it was actually quite well. And the reason for that is the door panels. The doors are so thin, you need to have airbags in there, because if someone crashes into you, you're gone. So, and now, this interior does not really have any buttons beside the ones on the radio and one on here. And I'm gonna show you now what I mean by that. Now, onto what I meant by the buttons that it doesn't have. So, this is of course the driver view. Here is more glass, but it's covered up. So, the only real button you have is this one. I'm gonna show you in a second what it does. It's the only button. These are toggle switchers. This is the rear defroster and the rear fog light. In other versions of the Twingo, the front bumper also has front fog lights, and then you have to press the button up, but it just doesn't have that. You can only switch it up like that. You see the red dot that's blinking up there? Once I get the key, I'm gonna stick it, of course, in the old school ignition. Turn the wheel for a sec. Just like that. All the warning lights go on. They are supposed to disappear. Yeah, Bluetooth. No, we do not want Bluetooth right now. And the radio can go off. So these two, the battery and the oil light, will go away as soon as I start the engine. So no worries about that. Of course, parking brake and your seatbelt sign. Here we have a really cool little pocket where I keep my purse, my papers for the car and everything. So this is really handy actually. Like the police can come up and you'll be like, hey, here is everything. Here we have a glove box that's, well, open. You cannot close it. On other Twingos there was a normal glove box, but you had a shelf. Alright, of course there are the papers for my exhaust. So passenger airbag, driver airbag, and in the seats. Like as I mentioned, the door panel is insanely thin. Like just have a look at that. When someone crashes into there, you're gone. So you already might have realized, where is the speedometer or the tachometer? There. This is all you got. Let me try to focus on there. So this is just the kmh, of course, not miles per hour, it's kmh. How much fuel you have left, mine is currently full, and the time. So now comes the little button. When you press that once, you can see how much the car has driven already. The miles, so kilometers, not miles. Almost 180,000 kilometers. When you press it again, you have your trip computer. Okay, it's really hard to tell, but every time I fuel up completely, I'm resetting this, so I know how far I got with one take on fuel. This has just a 35-liter fuel tank, so, well, not a lot. Of course, the most funny thing is that buzzer here. This is amazing. You hammer onto it and it puts on the turn signals. But, of course, here is the turn signal stock. When you turn left, it still shows the arrow in both ways. When I turn right, it does the exact same thing. And the chime is quite funny. Really high pitched. So now you might wonder, how do I turn on the headlights? This fob. Twist it once. Parking lights, twist it twice. Normal lights. And you pull it back and this turns on the brights. So you pull it again, it goes away. And when all headlights are out and you want to do like the flickering lights, like you want to flash someone, you just pull it slightly and this will flash the brights. But you cannot do that when the headlights are on. So you have to pull it and pull it again. Okay, Renault, we got that. And also, there is no horn around here. The horn is on the blinker stock. So you push it and this sounds the horn, which of course sounds ridiculous. Of course, pure 90s is the ashtray with the cigarette lighter, but that is currently not in use. The radio, cassette player, you don't see that in your modern typical car. Of course, you can start it with the button here and you play around in it. You can control the treble, the bass. Yeah, alright, I got it. And it's not a turning knob. You have to push it up for louder, down for quieter. I really love the fact that this is still the original radio that you got with the Twingo, because most people have replaced that with better aftermarket ones, but I will keep the original, just because for the sake of it. Up here, where the small mirror is, you have the light, the interior light, the dome light. Not really all that bright, to be fair. Normal, typical sun visors. And you have already realized that there is a lot of outside metal on the inside. Well, this continues all the way to the back, where you can see the entire mechanism for the trunk. Let's just say you will not see that again in a modern car. The grab panels, of course, completely fixed in place, but the magic trick is up here. So, as I said, the magic trick is this lever on top. And you might already have seen that this is a fabric roof. Not all the Twingos had this, but it was an optional extra and it was worth every single penny. Please do not ask me how much it cost new. So you pull it and then you just press. And voila, you have a convertible. So now you can drive with your fully open roof in your old Renault Twingo. But now a little trivia to that really amazing interior design for me personally, because this car is really small. It is really small, like not big in any way, but the interior is absolutely ridiculously big. I do not have any idea how Renault have done this, but you can easily sit, the lever is hidden under here, easily sit 4 adult passengers. When you move the seat a little bit further up front, because there is still a lot of room, you can easily sit a lot of passengers. And you can maybe see this lever. When you pull that, let me just can only do it from the back. All right, I do not understand why this doesn't work now. Oh, it does. Now of course Renault is not there anymore, but you have a lot larger trunk. Talking about practicality here, if it will go back, 1 second. So now where the seat is right at the back again, and you have a lot of room. Of course you can fold down the seat backs to the front, but you can also fold them to the back inside of the trunk. I'm gonna put in a picture right now. Why? Because you can, no joke, build an entire bed out of this interior. And you can sleep in it, and even 2 sumo wrestlers will fit. This is great attention for the customers. You can go camping in this little car, which is absolutely insane. Now we are coming to the engine. What powers this little car? I mean, it will not be a lot. You don't have to expect a big V6 in it. But I'm gonna show you how to reach the engine bay. Most people look around here. Well, no, it's here. You pull it and the engine bay will open. Now that we have pulled the lever, you have to pull around here, take a lift, and here you see the glorious Renault Twingo engine. So, a little background. This is the D7F engine. It's the later engine because the original ones had the so-called Cleon font. It produced around 53 horsepower. It sipped quite a lot of fuel, and at the end of the day it was not quite the best engine out there. But it worked. It was used all the way from the Renault 4 to the Renault 5. It was from the 70s, so in a 90s car, an engine from the 70s, this was insane. Later they created the D series, which is this. This is the D7F 812 engine with 58 horsepower. So a crazy increase with this French baguette horsepower. And 93 Newton meters of torque. It's not a race car, you see, but it only weighs 890 kilos and it can reach up a top speed of around 178 kilometers an hour. Officially, it's supposed to only go 150 kilometers, but well, I tested it. It was scary, but it was fun. So, this engine sips really, if you do it the correct way and you shift really low, it can reach really good, so good mileage that it's almost insane. I once averaged, it has 10 fuel bars. It has only 35 liter fuel tank, as I said, and I could drive 106 kilometers on just one of these 10 bars. So I have averaged a typical mileage of 3.5 liters per 100 kilometers. That's kind of crazy. Yeah, we sometimes have people here looking at me because they think, what am I doing? Why am I speaking English? But well, so it can be really good fuel economy for this old engine. And well, you could have opted for the 1.2 liter 16 valve with a mighty 75 horsepower, and this one is actually not all that slow, but it is really unreliable. So go with this engine. It produces far less problems because it's an old French car. It will have problems and it will eventually break down, but this one is far more reliable. Now where I can give you a closer look, this is all you get. It's not big, it's a 1.2. Here is the throttle valve, you can see everything just simple. Of course it's naturally aspirated, there is no turbo, it's just a 4-cylinder, but just think about it. Modern cars have a like 1 liter 3-cylinder that can produce like over 100 horsepower, and this is a 4-cylinder which only makes 58. So the ratio power to engine size is really good. The car is not under a lot of stress when you drive it. It's calm. It knows what it can handle, and this is a great thing. I mean, everything is simply laid out. There are no questions asked, and at the end, it's just not a bad car. It just isn't. So now to the driving experience. Let's pull up the window for better sound quality and start the engine. Hear it purr into life. Of course, the sport exhaust makes it louder than it typically is. I'm gonna show you a clip of how it sounds from the outside with the sport exhaust and without. So, driving. Of course it got a little bit louder on the inside. Release the handbrake, shift into reverse, and off we go. Of course this is an empty parking lot. So, we are now driving to a friend of mine, and I can tell you a little bit about how this particular car drives and handles. So, because it's really small and does not weigh a lot, the driving experience is really fun. But it's not fast. This was a pull from like 25 kilometers an hour up to 50. I have not given it full gas because this is something that the engine does just not like. It does not like to get pushed all the way. Only when the revs are maximum, and I do not have a rev counter, but you hear it because it's quite loud, only then will you have the maximum power of the mighty 58. Can push it a little bit here. Hear the 4-cylinder roar with all of its mighty power. So the suspension, for being a French car, which are supposed to always be really comfortable, it is not the best suspension out there. It is quite bumpy, as you have just seen, but it was also a really bumpy road. This is now a normal road. It shakes a bit, I can already tell, and my butt can tell. And of course with a power steering, the steering is quite heavy, but once you get going, you get used to it. Turning circle is really amazing. Like, you can almost like turn on the spine when you have it on full lock, and yes, you can turn it a lock. Here is a noise test at 30 kilometers an hour. I mean, other cars are completely quiet at that speed, and here, well, you can hear a lot. But this is kind of cool because you can hear all the sounds that the engine produces, which is kind of cool. But when you come right from work, you just want to relax, it can be quite annoying, but it's livable. You can deal with it. And of course the exhaust burbling around is really hilarious for such a slow car like this, but it was worth it, I personally think. Of course, we got to open up the roof. What do you want more from a car? What do you want more? Tell me. This is just brilliant. Let's close this up because of sound quality. See, just like that. windows are funny enough electric. I mean, it's a base model, and for a car that brand new costs around 6,000 euros, it's actually quite nice, but it lacks the power mirror controls. I only have this lever up there. Well, you cannot have everything. Uphill, yeah, it struggles with uphill driving. But the manual is fun. The shift ways are really long, but this kind of is a cool feeling. You have to really push it. And the clutch, oh man, the clutch. The clutch is not the easiest one to operate. It's quite wonky sometimes, and I had a lot of issues with it because Twingo have a lot of clutch problems. Not only mine, because the clutch is very small. And it's really, it's hard to make it drive smoothly. It's not the car where like, oh, rev matching. No. When I shift down, I need to press on gas. And it can be quite infuriating. Tick, 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 tick. But the blinker sound is amazing. It's just, you can hear all sorts of rattling from the interior, but this is kind of the charm about it. It's kind of fun, really. It is quite enjoyable to drive. But you always have to worry, because if someone bumps into me, good luck me. Oh, but the sound. It's not fast, but it's a car where I always say I rather drive a slow car fast than drive a fast car slow. This is just way more fun to begin with. It's just a fun experience. It really is. Oh, there is my friend already. Yeah, but I need to turn around and then park. But, well, how do I put it? I just love this car. I really do, and it's like shit boxes like this that, yeah, turning circle on the dime. It is so easy to drive. It's just so enjoyable. But well, I'm gonna end it here. I hope you enjoyed the video and you give it a thumbs up and you liked what you see. How can I put more? So, thanks to Doig Demuro for the idea, and have a great time, everyone. Goodbye.